Hamadaki Nick Tilsen Amachapi Chantea Washtena Pechuzapalo. This is Nick Tilsen, and you are listening to LANDBACK for the People. Coming at you right here from the homelands at the Osheti Shakoi in Mini Luzaha, also known as Rapid City, right here in the Chesapa, aka the Black Hills. It's an honor to be hosting this show and having conversations about the LANDBACK movement, having conversations about the future of our people, the liberation of our people, the rematriation of resources to our people. And today's show is gonna take a deep dive. It's gonna take a deep dive into some amazing LANDBACK organizing that is happening. LANDBACK organizing is currently happening inside the Catholic Church, actually being led by nuns. And nuns and the Catholic Church is beginning to reckon with its past relationship with Indigenous people and its relationship to Indigenous people's land. And so there's a huge body of work that's been happening in doing political education with nuns specifically, to help bring along the nuns, because the nuns can help bring along others within the Catholic Church. And they have developed political frameworks that are now aligned with LANDBACK and the LANDBACK movement. And it is actually beginning to lead to tangible results, including an awesome story of the Flambeau tribe in northern Wisconsin recently getting land returned from the Catholic Church back to their tribe. And at different times, there's been different churches who have given lands back to different tribes. But in this particular situation, it's been as a result of political education and organizing within the Catholic Church. So the return and the rematriation and this LANDBACK action is coming from a place of framing it as a LANDBACK project, a land rematriation. So a political analysis that we are giving this land back because it is an act of justice. That is an act of beginning to right relationships that were been wronged in the past. And so who's doing this organizing inside the Catholic Church to make this happen? We're bringing one of them on the show today. A good friend of mine, Brittany Koteles. She is the executive director of this amazing organization called Land Justice Futures that works on land rematriation, that works on political education, that works on land justice issues that range from Indigenous land return and land back on the Lac de Framboy, all the way to land reparations in the South with Black farmers and Black families, and all of it interfacing with the relationship that the Catholic Church and Christians have had with land over time. And this is huge. This journey of the Catholic Church beginning to adopt LANDBACK frameworks and put it to action, because the Catholic Church is one of the biggest landowners in the world. They have land in every single continent and every single country in the world, and there's a deep history there. And so the LANDBACK and the Catholic Church is also deeply bound up with the church's truth reconciliation work as it relates to residential and boarding schools. And so on this show today, you're going to hear from Brittany, who is organizing on the ground. You're going to hear about a tangible LANDBACK story. You're going to hear what it means and what it looks like to organize nuns inside the Catholic Church to return land back and to do the work of returning Indigenous lands back into Indigenous hands. It's an exciting conversation. Let's jump into it. We're back here on LANDBACK for the people, and I have an amazing guest and an old friend we've known each other since 2014.
Wow.
2014.
Dang.
So it's an honor for you to be on the show, Brittany. Brittany Koteles is the executive director of Land Justice Futures, and does amazing land back work, land rematriation work. But I want to give the opportunity for you to introduce yourself to the audience. But welcome to the Black Hills.
Thank you. It's so good to be here with you. It's my first time in the Black Hills. So my name is Brittany Koteles. I'm the director of Land Justice Futures, as you already said. And so, yeah, we work with religious communities, Christian religious communities, right now mostly Catholic sisters, to discern futures for the lands that they steward and love that are rooted in racial and ecological healing. So we accompany a lot of communities making those decisions and walk with them to walk toward repair.
Well, what does that mean? So, so I have to admit, whenever I first heard, I don't know if I would have responded if it wasn't you. Mm-hmm. Okay, so yeah, because we met each other back in 2014, and you worked for Ashoka.
I worked for Ashoka.
And I was being considered for an Ashoka fellow, and I became a fellow.
Yep.
And that's where we met.
Yep.
And it was cool being honored and accepted into this network of social entrepreneurs from around the world, and that's where we first met. Which
I was a little baby. That was my first adult job, was supporting that team. I think I was 24 or 25 when you were
and we began
coming
old
through. And I was totally starstruck. For me it was wow, Nick Tilsen. I was still really new to that work, and yeah, and I messed up your hotel reservation.
Oh my God, you did! I remember. Yeah, I know.
It was the true lowest point in my entire career to this day.
I remember I was all about, because I was living on Pine Ridge at the time, and then finally made my way to DC, and then I was stuck in this lobby of this hotel, so tired.
Man.
But shit happens, you know.
You know.
We laughed about it. But when you reached out, I started doing this LANDBACK work. We launched the LANDBACK movement, and it was wait, Brittany's organizing nuns inside of the Catholic Church to get land back? And I was wait, what? I was you have to run that back. We're gonna have to run that back. Because I was so focused on the Black Hills, big, huge land return. And I was wait a second. And then I started thinking, holy shit, wait a second. The Catholic Church is one of the biggest landowners in the world.
Yeah, the largest private landowner in the world.
In the planet.
Yeah.
So what led you?
Oh, man.
What led you to, one, thinking that land back matters? And I guess I'll start there. What does land back mean to you, and why does it matter to you?
Yeah. Just that little question.
There's little things we talk about on this show.
Yeah. Man, what does land back mean to me? With our work, we talk about land justice, and we talk about it as centering healing and justice, racial, ecological, economic, social justice in the decisions that are made about how land is used and loved and governed. And so fundamental to that is an ethic of decolonization. It is fundamental in the work of land justice, is changing how our mainstream society relates to the ideas of land and ownership because that's, yeah. And so your question of like, when did that become important to me? I think I kind of came in through different kinds of movement work to wealth redistribution as kind of a central piece of work. And through that, all of the rivers kind of like converged. On one hand, I was working with social entrepreneurs, and I really cared about how do we support the spiritual well-being of people that are on the front lines doing this work. I think it's one of the reasons why I so connected with your work, because I remember when you came in, you were still at Thunder Valley, and you were like, at the core, like, this is a lot of things, but at the core, this is spiritual work, and this is a spiritual movement. And I think just generally where we are in society right now, just like our birthright as people on this planet, as living beings on this planet, is to be connected with the inherent wholeness that is life. And and so I think the systems that, the way that we've gotten to where we are has really separated all of us, I think, most of us, from being able to access that. And I'm kind of trailing off a little bit. Sorry.
No. That's totally fine. Because I think it is a journey, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's a journey, and that's the thing I do like about what you're saying too. Is like the work of land back and land rematriation. It's spiritual work, because so many things happened on all of these lands that were so destructive, that disconnected us. Yeah. And that land is not always, like, land and land back is not always about titles and ownership and return. No. It's about reestablishing the connection to each other and to Mother Earth, and making sure that relationship isn't transactional, but that it's like there's reciprocity, and it's back to a place of regeneration where it's not just this extractive relationship. Yeah. Because we have this extractive relationship with the land, therefore we have extractive relationships with each other.
Yeah, totally. Some of our partners at Movement Generation, those guys, they always say, what you do to the land, you do to the people. And what you do to the people, you do to the land. Yep. And so if we're coming with an extractive kind of mentality, which I think is the overculture of where we are, right? Like, then that's going to play out in our human relationships, and our relationship with anything living, and with our own lives. And
shout out Resource Generation fam. Those good
Movement
folks.
Those guys too. Movement Generation.
Movement Generation. Yeah. Okay, so that's part of how you personally got here.
Yeah.
What about this whole strategy? Because clearly there's like, hey, you're just laying in there one day, saying in your morning prayers, doing whatever you do in the morning, and you're like, hey, I think I'm going to organize the nuns.
Yeah, not only that's exactly how it went down, I was just like, I've got an idea. No.
Yeah, so how did you end up getting to that point? Like why organize the nuns, and why focus on the Catholic Church, and why, it's like, I'm going to organize LANDBACK with the sisters. Like, how did you get there?
Yeah. A long road. So like I said, I kind of came in through social movement work, always kind of carrying this question of, what does spiritual care look like for people who are on the front lines, who are fighting to actually change these systems and this history that we've inherited. Fundamentally, I believe that work is spiritual work. And we also live in a world where, my generation, millennials, I think 45% of us are not religiously affiliated. So like, what does spiritual care look like in multiracial cross-class movements? And long story really short, I, in that process, was looking for elders for myself, spiritual elders in my own journey and my own work, and examples of community that are trying to live counterculturally. And in no way would I have ever predicted that the people that I was going to find and that were going to find me were Catholic sisters. You know, I'm not Catholic. I have a complex relationship with Christianity, and I was raised Catholic, kind of in like I more of a secular Catholic way. And so I didn't know any Catholic sisters before my late 20s, early 30s. And I was blown away. I still thought like sisters all wore habits and were really conservative and cloistered. And I was meeting these women who have been through their own transformation in the last decades. And we can talk more about that. But I also saw women who were pooling their resources, who relinquished individual ownership of anything. It held everything in common, and who were just these kind of rad women. I mean, they were the first time I ever got arrested at a protest was with a bunch of nuns who were like throwing down together in community and taking on this really radical vision of Christianity, of this call from their tradition to be love in the world and fight against inequity. And yeah, so I really just like never expected that those were going to be the elders that I was deepening with. And yeah, they've totally impacted me in a lot of really good ways. And while that was happening, and while we were kind of deepening in also doing some shared kind of organizing work, some climate justice conversations, while that was happening, these communities were literally letting go of the lands that they held in title. Like sisters, average age is 82 years old. Average age of a Catholic sister in this country is 82 years old. And so a lot of these communities are facing really big shifts in their demographics. They're becoming smaller and smaller, and the lands and properties that they own, so to speak, are becoming too big for them, so that most communities in this country are discerning what the future of these lands is going to look like. And they're having that conversation kind of while we're having these visionary conversations about justice and spirituality and community and climate justice. And we said, you know, are you connecting that discernment with these movements for climate justice that are looking to deepen and grow their land base, to get land back, to actually have power and infrastructure in the places where they're building? Like, your land discernment doesn't have to be separate from that. And that was just, yeah. So at that time, like, it wasn't like I thought, oh, now we're going to start an organization. You know, it kind of happened really slowly and evolved over a few years of conversation, and also us saying, like, who's supporting you and thinking differently about this, and really walking with them to say, we really want to support you in bridging these decisions that you're making with these movements for land back, for land reparations, for a just economy that are all looking for land and infrastructure and place to gather and place to actually live out this kind of future that we're fighting for right now. And yeah, so Land Justice Futures was born, and now I think 4,000 Catholic sisters have come to our educational stuff. We're walking kind of like doing deep accompaniment with 19 communities across the country who are saying, we want to center land justice in the decisions that we make about land. We want to do this differently. So yeah, it's been a ride. It's been a ride.
I remember when that's an awesome, I mean, that's an awesome journey. Cause I remember when I was like, when I was first touching base with Ashoka people after, like, I would say I was coined myself as the worst Ashoka fellow, because I would never go to any of the things. Like, I was always invited. I was always invited to these things, and I was really bad at email. And then they're like, "No, don't worry, they're all like that."
I was gonna say the secret is that Most Ashoka fellows are bad at email.
But then I was like, I didn't see like they're like, wow. I was like, where's Brittany? Like, what? And they're like, oh, she's working. You know, she's working with the nuns.
Working with the nuns.
And in my mind, I immediately was like, she joined the nunnery. Like she's in it. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah,
I don't even know what that means. And then when I started seeing, like, we had conversations, and I started seeing the political education materials. And I think that's the thing for like the listeners and those watching, like this work, like to bring along one of the most conservative, archaic, destructive institutions.
Yeah.
You know, to go in there and to organize internally in those spaces. It takes a lot of innovation, creativity, grit, but also like what I'm hearing too is like this spiritually led you here.
Yeah.
And I think that is powerful, because I think that when we think about land back and rebuilding relationships between people and land, we have to have a foundation of spirituality and a spirit.
Yes.
And that's the thing that like makes me happy for you in this journey. And I'm super curious, you know, like when, like, was the first time that you were ever like in a meeting with a group of nuns and you were like, LANDBACK?
Oh man. Yeah. I remember Sister Chris Laughlin. She started something. She's a Dominican Sister of Peace. And she started something called, I think it was the Religious Lands Conservancy. So she had been working kind of in the 70s, 80s, 90s with religious orders to put conservation easements on their land. And I was like, and we, you know, when we started working with sisters, we started framing land justice as land justice is the protection of land, also the regeneration of land and the restoration of equity, power, and control to the people most harmed by colonization. So like protection from extraction, that's right, the defend part of NDN, that's there, but it's so much like the possibilities of healing are so much greater than just protecting the land. But so we were talking to Sister Chris about our vision, and I was really nervous. You know, I was like, is she going to feel like this is slighting her? Is she going to get it? How will this be received? And she was our first advisor. And she said, this is the continuation and the deepening and the expansion of the work that I was doing and the part that I could see at the time that I could see it. Like, you are the next generation and you are seeing more and you are bringing this to a fuller fruition. And overall, that's, and again, like I was really nervous before that conversation because I really didn't know. It just felt like, coming to the nuns and being like, hey, we actually have some ideas for how this could all go. And, they didn't see us as, we're not land advisors. I didn't get my degree in.
What do you know about land?
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I was afraid of. And that is not the message that I got from sisters. And I think it speaks a lot to, the orders that we're working with, they are having their own awakening right now in the complicity of the Catholic Church. The response, more than complicity, the driving force that the Catholic Church was in colonization, and a lot of orders' complicity in boarding schools and in upholding this agenda of colonization. I think a lot of sisters today are just waking up. The culture and the institution and the logic of domination was so thorough that a lot of sisters didn't realize until rather recently, like, we were a part of what?
Yeah.
You know?
Played a role in Manifest Destiny.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was a conduit.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that's where I can talk a little bit about like kind of how we start these conversations with communities about like the first step. So communities come to us and they're like, we want justice and healing to be a part of the way that we're thinking about land. We're doing our reckoning work. We are fighting for justice and equity in a lot of ways, and we've never really connected the assets, the land, the wealth that the Catholic Church holds and that sisters hold as a part of that. And will you help us kind of think that through and explore possibilities for these places that we love and we want to be a part of a just future. So they're coming saying, we want to do this, and we're in the hard reckoning work, and we come in and we look at, I mean, we talk about the doctrine of discovery. Like, the Catholic Church is the largest private landowner in the world because it was a force in colonization. And, anyway, I'm sure I don't know how far into the...
No. I mean, I think that framework, I mean, it helps a lot to frame like the why, Like,
yeah.
And I think that I think that's the thing about like that's powerful about this journey.
Yeah.
And I think like what you just talked about with, and this is kind of where I see the two sort of spiritual journeys and spiritual work coming together, was that like ever since we launched the modern LANDBACK movement in this form, because I always say, LANDBACK, like we've been fighting, indigenous people have been fighting for our land ever since it was taken from us.
Yeah.
So this idea of us fighting for our land back is not new.
It's very old.
But in its modern form of land back as a movement over the past 5 to 7 years, it has really been a place of intergenerational organizing.
Yes.
And has been, for us, it's been a way to connect with elders directly and connect to young people.
Yeah.
It has been this bridge of, and that's where I knew like this idea was like the idea of land back as a movement would work, is because you would go to elders and elders would lean in and they would say, it's about everything that they ever took from us.
Yeah.
And young people would just be like, land back, hell yeah, land back, and it became this thing. And so it's really interesting because there's some deep parallels in the journey that you just talked about in going to, the Sister Carol, is that what was her name?
Chris.
Sister Chris. And her being able to see that your work is a continuation of a foundation that she had laid in a nuanced framework. But also like, what did that feel like to be able to be like, have an elder who's laid a foundation for that, embrace an ideology and a framework that was that you were bringing forth and a new way of organizing it, but you were also bringing people like me and others into that space of saying like, this stuff is being informed by movement organizing work.
Yeah.
What did it feel like? What did it feel like to like all of a sudden be at this cross intersection space and have her accept it and embrace it?
I could cry, like just thinking about her, and she has since passed. And whenever I'm in Kentucky where she's buried, I visit her, and because it's hard to put into words. Like, to me, I remember her saying, what you love, we will love. Like, tell the sisters what you are in love with, and they will love it too. Like, you need to stand in your place right now because you're seeing something. You guys are really seeing something, and you're calling us to it. And I need you to know that I want you to stand there. And it was like, it was one of the most powerful. It's still on a little sticky note on my MacBook. it was one of the most meaningful blessings from an elder that I've ever received.
See, that's what it's all about. I mean, I think like because when you have those kind of connections like that, then it can it catalyzes the work.
Yes.
That is then measurable, then impactful.
Totally. Yeah.
Moving forward, it creates the foundation for it.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about all this political education, organizing work happening inside religious institutions, the Catholic Church. It's not all in theory anymore.
It's not.
There is some exciting news that we're going to be able to share about where some of that has led, including an actual LANDBACK project and land rematriation project. So we'll be back in just a few minutes to dive into it.
In case you missed it, 2024 was a big year for Indian Collective. To share some exciting victories and stories, we recently published our 2024 Impact Report, Working for the People. In this report, you can learn about how we trained more than 200 people in 15 Indigenous communities in nonviolent direct action and organized for the successful release of Lekshi Leonard Peltier. Through the Indian Foundation, we were able to rematriate more than $26.9 million in grant funding directly back to Indigenous artists, changemakers, and organizations that are leading important and solution-based work in their own communities. We also successfully returned 475 acres of land back to Indigenous people. Since it began, Indian Fund closed 12 loans that led to the development of 7 safe and affordable housing units, created 815 jobs, and supported LANDBACK wins across 5 different projects. You could read all about these victories and more in our 2024 Impact Report, Working for the People, on our website, and the link is in the description below.
All right, we're back. So this journey, this incredible journey, and like also the amount of pain that's in here too, like recognizing that like the Catholic Church was deeply responsible for colonization. It was a primary tenet of what happened to Indigenous people on our land, the role that they played in residential and boarding schools, both Canada, United States, and around the world.
Yeah.
It was part of a whole strategy to colonize Indigenous people and to obtain the land and extract the resources from it. And so this journey is multi-layered, and I think the conditions that created for this LANDBACK work to be happening is a lot of the work that was done around people challenging the Catholic Church and to reckon with their past and their treatment of people and Indigenous people through these boarding schools and residential schools. And so as we are talking about all of this, like it's important that we talk about the context of all that and recognize the context of all that. As an organizer, I really leaned, I was like, I want to know the strategy. I want to know what Brittany is thinking about. I was like, because first I was like, it makes sense to organize inside the Catholic Church because they're the biggest private landowner in the world.
Yeah.
So if we're gonna launch a successful LANDBACK movement globally, then it's kind of required that we end up being one of the targets as an organizer, right? Is the Catholic Church and their lands. But then within the church, there's also like, let's organize with the nuns.
Yeah.
So my question is, what is like the bigger strategy of why focus on the nuns? And as a way and a mechanism to like move the church along as it relates to land rematriation and LANDBACK.
Yeah, totally. So I think first, you're talking about, it's like if we're doing this work of LANDBACK and land justice, then the Catholic Church, just by right of being the largest private landowner in the world, is important. But it's also a cultural target, right? Like the cultural, political underpinnings of U.S. property law, of how colonization played out, were first mandated and put into motion by the Catholic Church. So literally, I mean, we all know about the doctrine of discovery. Those papal decrees saying lands that are occupied by non-Christians are empty and open to be discovered, that said go invade and capture non-Christian people, those aren't just like things that happened 500 years ago. They're literally cited into U.S. property law. One of the first U.S. Supreme Court cases to take on a property dispute cites those papal bulls as the justification, saying, well, like it's literally baked into the Catholic Church's decrees are literally baked into the U.S. Supreme Court ruling that discovery is the foundation of title. Those are literal words. Or in 2005, it was cited most recently. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg's first footnote in her majority ruling or majority opinion said, according to the doctrine of discovery, which first of all, the land became vested in the sovereign. First, the discovering European nation, and later the United States. Like that idea that, this kind of progressive champion, as many people see her, a Jewish woman, starts her justification saying, according to the doctrine of discovery, land became vested in the sovereign, like some magical spell. Like it's literally just something the Pope said and wrote down. But that's like how powerful it is in the mainstream cultural imagination is deeds, property. Like this is just how this works. And it has a root system. It has a beginning. It started as an idea somewhere, and that is deeply intertwined with the story of the Catholic Church and of the Christian faith. And so when we talk to and work with people like these sisters who are taking on this work, not just to move the actual acreage of land, but to say, we want to tell a different story, like that's deep cultural acupuncture right there. Like we're hitting on a nerve that runs all the way down to the root system of how colonization was able to unfold. And so the way we work with our communities is it's not just like, okay, let's like turn on the switchboard, the LANDBACK switchboard, and okay, you have property here, talk to these people. No, we take them through a process where we actually break down what were the treaties that were broken on your land? Were there people enslaved on your land? Was there dispossession? Were there racial restrictive covenants on your land? How did this land first become private property? And who was the first owner? And almost all, like we go into the deed history, and almost always it's a land speculator or someone from an extractive industry is the first person who came to own the land that they now live on. And so it's in doing this and in working with sisters in particular, they represent something. They archetypally represent something in the Catholic Church. And they're also, a lot of these orders, the most forward-thinking part of this archaic institution that has also marginalized them and kept, the yaps. That's so to say we're going to work with you to imagine a different future. And in this moment of letting go, these are communities that are aging. They're talking about legacy. Their communities are smaller than they may have imagined them to be when they joined. Like there's a lot of grief. And so when we come in and say, the way you let go can be one of the most powerful things that you do. You can model what it looks like because you are a part of an institution that caused colonization. If you model a different way of letting go, that does so much. Like that impacts
the ripple effect of that is,
yeah.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I think that like the thing, like I didn't realize like till probably a handful of years ago that like the sisters were like the progressives.
Yeah.
Because I was so far.
100%.
And it's crazy because I was like, I was like trying to figure out how to finance and build this development at Thunder Valley. And
right.
that's what I first learned. I was like, oh, the sisters were like the first to do socially responsible investing.
Yes. 100%.
And before there was even language around socially responsible investing, because they wanted to make sure that they did the most values driven work. And so whenever I started like reading your stuff and seeing what you're doing, I'm like, hey, wait a second, there's a there here. I mean, to organize sisters to move within this, especially at the place that they're at, especially this legacy, especially that they sort of hold a line, is like a really brilliant organizing strategy. And I was like, this is awesome. We have to find a way to continue to tell this story, and as it unfolds and happens, because I do think that like in Indian country, and just recently, the National Native American Boarding School Healing Coalition was out here, and they were doing the oral history project out here, and they were doing it on a piece of land actually that we got back, and the Indian got back here, and we were hosting, and here you're hearing these stories from these elders. Horrific stories about their survival of the residential boarding schools, and it feels like there's all of this reckoning and healing, and truth, and all this stuff happening, and then over here inside the church with the sisters, you have this happening over here too, and it's like these things are beginning to come together, and that's what like building a movement's all about.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because it really, like when there's real work happening, real with shared political analysis, then we're all getting in the same car together.
Yeah.
As far as like where we're trying to get.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's where we want to be playing that role as Land Justice Futures, is like, how do we take this reckoning work and these like pretty good instincts that the sisters are moving with and help build an on-ramp into this bigger movement and help connect the dots, because there's also some bridging work that needs to happen, and I think of Pat McCabe, who is Danae and one of our advisors, and one of her prayers that she says she often prays is, Spirit, show me how good it can get. Show me how good it can get. Like, we're fighting so much crazy stuff in this world. And what is the prayer of like, how good can this movement get? When we talk about a just transition and building power and a cross-class, multiracial alternative to this extractive hellscape that we live in, like, to me, Nuns doing LANDBACK is like, show me how good it can get. Like, what are the kinds of coalitions that we didn't even think we could dream of? The things that survivors of boarding schools would never imagine, a community of nuns saying, we're rolling with you. We want to support these movements. And I think that's like the promise of this work is, what if we built coalitions we never thought we could dream of? Like, that's power.
Yeah.
And the other side doesn't have that.
Yeah, that's true. Because I think that's the difference is that there's depth.
Yes.
And I think that, like, although it takes a long time to build those roots, and it's political education, it's organizing. It's, when people think about building movements, sometimes people think, oh, the image of a bunch of people marching together, the sexy thing. But movement work is really about organizing around kitchen tables, conversations with human beings, tackling hard conversations and leaning in and being in discomfort a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I know, like, where you're organizing when your shit is uncomfortable. Yeah. Because you're like, all right, this is some different shit. This work with Land Justice Futures is it's been going well, and it's leading to a place, and there's an awesome land back story to be told.
Yes,
so we're not just talking about pie in the sky, political education. It's getting real.
It's getting real.
Proof of concept. Let's talk about what's happening with the Lac de Flambeau tribe in northern Wisconsin.
Yep.
And let's talk about that a little bit. What's going on with this land back project?
Yeah. So right now in Ojibwe territory, the first Catholic land return is happening. The Franciscan Sisters of Perpetual Adoration, which is, I think, the longest order name that we work with.
Wait, can you run that back again?
Yes, the Franciscan Sisters of Perpetual Adoration.
All right.
They are returning land to the Lac de Flambeau Ojibwe right now. And as far as we know, it's the first Catholic land return in the name of reparations for colonization and boarding schools. And like the Lac de Flambeau Reservation is said to be one of the most checkerboarded reservations in the country. So when allotment happened, all these non-natives sort of forced the scooping up of basically all the lakefront property. Mm-hmm. So you go to the reservation and the majority of lakefront water access is actually owned by non-native people. And the sisters own this retreat center that's lakefront. And they, like many communities of sisters, they're growing older. They're getting smaller. They have this retreat center, and they kind of came to the point where they were like, we can't run this anymore. And we're going to start discerning the future of this. And when that was happening, they were also doing a lot of beginning to reckon with their history, administering a boarding school for Ojibwe kids. And I can read a little bit about that too, if you want me to.
I would love that. Yeah.
So I'll read. So this is from a few years ago, actually, when the sisters were starting to really like uncover that history, which again, it's kind of mind blowing, I think, to like at this point to be like, Sister Eileen McKenzie, she was the president at the time in 2018 when they really started digging into this. And she said, the initial learning was that there was this federal policy that we were complicit in. And then the next learning was, why didn't we know about this? Like, the sisters really did not understand the cultural genocide that they were a part of, but went on to like do that hard digging in. And this is what she said. And this is an interview with Sister Eileen from the La Crosse Historical Society. She said, my hope is that when we do this, others will engage their own discomfort in listening to the different stories and really looking at what our systems are that need to be dismantled or changed to enhance dignity and healing and life. And their website, I'll just read that, and then you guys can choose which, their website, they say, this is right there on the FSPA website, where they say, we administered the Bad River Ojibwe residential school, and we now know that this caused an unimaginable amount of suffering and trauma. And then they say, our hope is that as we listen to the painful experiences of Indigenous communities and take responsibility for the role we played, we can take action in dismantling systemic racism in ourselves and in our areas of influence. Our intention is to address our complicity in unjust systems historically and now, and to strive to enhance dignity and wholeness to those who have suffered for generations. So they've been on that journey of reckoning, and it's been years now. And now they're saying, we want to take a reparative action. And so the land return is really woven together with their like years of really hard work of uncovering that they've done, and and a desire to model something different.
That's powerful. I mean, that's really powerful. So I know all the Indians are probably like, how much land we talking? Mm-hmm. How much is it worth?
Yes.
And what are they going to do with it when they get it back?
Yeah. Okay. So it's 2 acres. It's $2.6 million valuated property. And the way they did it was it's a $30,000 sale. So they sold it for 1% of the value, kind of to cover some basic things. The Lac de Flambeau Business Development Corporation is going to be managing the land, and they're still deciding. And I actually really love this. Like, the sisters are like, it's okay if you don't know what you're going to do with this yet. Like, we want this land to be with you.
It's not a condition.
It's not. There's no condition. Yeah. There's no condition. And in fact,
it goes back to the tribe.
Yeah.
They decide what they want to do with it.
And they've been really amazing. They have said kind of from the beginning, like, we trust you. We know that our values are aligned, and we're behind you. And we want this to be part of a cultural regeneration and a return. And that's all we need to know. So now the tribe is talking about, it might be elder housing. It's in the short term, it's going to be housing for healthcare workers. But they are also talking about maybe it'll be a place where Ojibwe elders are able to come and gather and teach Ojibwe language to the next generation. So they're still figuring it out. And
it's lakefront too. I think that's
lakefront.
I think that's the other thing too, is like, it's a big, both for spiritual reasons, food sovereignty reasons, cultural reasons, because that's a pattern, right?
Yes.
So if you look across reservations that are across, tribal nations that are across, places that have access to any kind of resource, we've often been like blocked out of it.
Yep.
And so I think that's another big, a big thing there. The thing I like about this too is, one, I've often talked about LANDBACK as that it's about restoring the decision-making power of Indigenous people back over their lives, their lands, their futures, and that it's not always the concern of somebody else what we do with the land when we get it back. That's up to us. That's our decision to be making. And I like that the sisters have come to that conclusion as a result of their journey, as a result of this political education, as a result of them doing the healing work inside to get to that point.
Yeah.
Because that's not always the case, and I think that the framework too of giving, it's different when somebody says, hey, I'll give this land back, but don't tell nobody. Mm-hmm. I want to give this piece of land back, and I want to, it's the right thing to do. And I just can you just keep it on the DL?
Yeah, totally.
But in this case, they're saying like, we're giving land back because of the harm that was done. And we're trying to right historical wrongs, and we're taking some accountability for what we've done. And that's what's that is like the power of this story, of this LANDBACK story. Yeah. And I'm extremely happy for the Anishinaabe people to have this piece of land back, but also to be a catalyst for future conversations around this,
Yeah, totally. Oh, and I think the great thing is, like, I'm also happy for the sisters. And that's like, this is about restoring sovereignty to the Ojibwe, full stop. And what I think it demonstrates, though, is like, this is so much bigger in that, like, this is about a way of thinking and a way of relating to land, a way of fighting for a livable future and undoing the ways that we've commodified that colonization has commodified everything around us, that this is also good for us. Like, that might sound corny or something, but in my heart of hearts, I'm like, this movement is about restoring wholeness for all of us, and for these sisters who are, they're like throwing down, they're like, let's let's get on the press releases. Let's tell this story. Let's be a model. Let's have this be the first 2 acres of many more Catholic acres that change hands. And like to see them in what could feel like an end for them, they're saying this feels like a beginning. And that's like, one sister said to me, it feels like 20 years we've been preparing to die. And this work of land justice, of being a part of something that's moving land and changing culture, I finally feel like we're living,
Yeah.
And I think that's LANDBACK at its best.
Yeah, that's powerful. Well, we're gonna have to have the sisters and some folks and relatives, some Anishinaabe relatives from Bad River, to come up on the show maybe next season and talk with them. But this has been awesome for you to have you on here, and I know that probably like listeners and people viewing are still probably like, what? I would not expect us to be talking about organizing the sisters inside the Catholic Church to give land back on LANDBACK for the people, but it also shows the expansiveness of this movement.
Yeah.
In referencing the LANDBACK movement, like sometimes as Indigenous people, we kind of have like our head down like this, right? Mm-hmm. It's just like, it's about everything that happened when they stole the land. But it's also like that process contributed to this global system that's not working for people.
Yeah.
That's extractive. That's contributing to climate change. That's creating a further gap between the rich and the poor, and creating a class war, and contributing to authoritarianism, and contributing to all of this harmful things that are happening, in the world. And yet through all of this, like LANDBACK is like this thread of truth, this thread of healing, this thread of reconciliation, rematriation that creates a different conversation.
Yes.
And like right now, this country is having a conversation about its future. Like, what is the future of the United States of America? Will there even be a democracy? And what we keep saying is, well, no matter what the future is, if there's going to be a multiracial democracy in the future, or if there's going to be democratic values, or there's going to be a governance, whatever that governance looks like, it's going to include LANDBACK. It's going to include reparations. It's going to include us. It's going to include people that our old system wanted to erase, extract, and wipe us away from total existence. And at this moment in history, that's what I like. I love to hear these stories. I love to tell these stories. I love to have conversations about them. I love to organize towards them, because it teaches, and every single time that we do LANDBACK work, it holds up a mirror to this country, to the decision makers, to people on either side of the political aisle. And it gives us and contributes to a vision of where we could be.
That's it.
A vision for the future.
Yes.
A vision that includes LANDBACK, Black reparations, that includes justice.
Yeah.
And that the idea of LANDBACK and justice is something that is good for everybody. People should not be afraid of LANDBACK. People should be leaning into it, because it's creating a path forward for all of us. And this story, the story and the work that you've been doing, and it describes that.
Yeah.
The feeling behind it, but also tangible, direct results. And so I just commend you for continuing to do this work. And I'm honored to be sitting here at this table, hosting you on our homelands, my homelands here, and to keep this conversation going, and to also, let folks know, the listeners out there, that it is these types of alliances that will actually get to the place of justice, equity, and liberation for all people and Mother Earth. And that's what we stand for in the world here at NDN. And I know you do. I know you do too at Land Justice Futures.
Totally. Yeah, I'm so honored to be here. It's really, I mean, NDN has some of the early things you all wrote and put out. Like, we've been, when we were a little baby organization, like we were reading the LANDBACK position paper from NDN, and you have all shaped a movement with so much room for so many to plug in. You know, I think you've really created that vision of real coalition and building real power. So I'm honored to be here. Oh, and I have something for you. This is Manumin this is from the land that is being rematriated. So this is wild rice from up north, Wisconsin, Ojibwe territory.
Thank you.
So
that's like, it smells like the lake.
Hey.
That's cool. I want to go there. I want to go there someday. Put some prayers down there.
Yeah.
Only if invited by the Anishinaabes, though. You know, there's more and more Anishinaabes in my life. So. But it's an honor to have you on the show. I look forward to future conversations. How can people learn more about Land Justice Futures? How can people support the continued work that you're doing?
You can check us out at landjusticefutures.org. We have a lot of resources there. You can donate if you want to, but we have a lot of resources online for people who want to learn more about how to join this movement. And that's not just for Catholic sisters, that's for Christian landowning institutions and really anybody that wants to plug in.
Sounds good. So landjusticefutures.org, donate, sign up, get involved, learn, share. And also if you want to continue to support the work happening and the stories that we get to tell here on LANDBACK for the People, you can donate on IndianCollective.org. You can also support the LANDBACK or For the People Fund or For the People campaign. Man, I'm always messing that up. For the People campaign, which also supports this show, supports organizing, and
cool. We'll pump it up on our newsletter.
Yeah, and we always like to uplift these things and these resources. So, landjusticefutures.org, and I'll end by saying that organizing in this movement is about relationships. It's about maintaining those relationships. It's about leaning forward. And I'm glad that after all these years later that we're able to connect and build, especially in this way, especially in the umbrella of healing and getting us closer to our collective goals. And so I look forward to future conversations, and it's an honor having you here on LANDBACK for the People. And I want to also thank all of the listeners, those who view, those who support our work out there, for us to continue to do this work, because this work needs to be resourced. And no matter what happens in this political climate that we are in, it requires us working together collaboratively to achieve justice and liberation for all of our people in our land. And so we will keep this work going and look forward to future conversations and hopefully making it up to Anishinaabe territory when this LANDBACK story has come. So thank you.